have sex with a minor. Now, Gates denies the allegations. NBC News correspondent Ali Rafa is joining us in Florida following the Trump transition. Also with us, MSNBC political contributor, chief strategist for the Bush 2004 campaign, Matthew Dowd, and host of the Danielle Moody Show and the Woke AF Daily podcast, Danielle Moody. So, Ali, the president-elect making news this morning, signaling that he could declare a national emergency and use the military to enact that mass deportation plan that he promised as president. What more do we know?
Yeah, Anna, good morning. For the first time, President-elect Trump is confirming how his administration would carry out this controversial mass deportation plan. As you mentioned at the top there, he shared this post from the president of a conservative group that detailed the plan and added the word true. And we have asked for more clarity from the Trump team as far as how this would work. And the Trump team says they have nothing more to add, but this wouldn't be totally unprecedented. Remember, in 2019, Trump declared a national emergency at the border to be able to access more federal funding for his border wall. And then in 2018, he actually did send military troops to the border, though the Pentagon at the time insisted that they were there more for logistical support rather than being able to apprehend undocumented migrants. But now that Trump has vowed to do this in this next term, it is still unclear how exactly this would work, Anna.
We've also learned the president-elect is standing by his picks for the Pentagon and the DOJ, despite allegations putting their nominations in jeopardy. Where do things stand there?
Yeah, that's right. Controversy only growing around two of Trump's top cabinet picks, Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz. And it was discovered over the weekend by this breaking news by the Washington Post that Hegseth had paid a woman who accused him of sexual assault and had her sign a non-disclosure agreement. And the Washington Post reported that the woman's friend sent a memo that, we should note, NBC News has not seen, to the Trump team last week, alleging that Hegseth, quote, raped the then 30-year-old conservative group staffer in his room after drinking at a hotel bar. Police say they investigated the incident, but no charges were ever filed. And Hegseth's attorney says his client is completely innocent of what he calls a consensual encounter. And the president-elect is standing by his choice. The Trump transition team this morning putting out a statement that reads in part, quote, "We look forward to his confirmation as United States Secretary of Defense so he can get started on day one to make America safe and great again." And then we talk about Matt Gaetz. He is facing new headwinds in his quest to become Attorney General. There are growing calls from lawmakers for the House Ethics Committee to release a report of that since closed probe into allegations of sexual misconduct as well as illicit drug use by Gaetz, which he denies. House Speaker Mike Johnson notably insisting that that report remains sealed. But as of now, there is a growing number of Republicans on Capitol Hill that already doubt that Gaetz ever gets confirmed on it.
Ali Rafa, keep us posted. Thank you so much for those updates. So, Matthew, on the deportations, let's start there. This is the first time, I believe, that Trump has now confirmed how he is planning to carry this out. Is there anything stopping him?
Well, the United States Senate and the United States Congress could stop him because they control funding and they control a lot of the regulations that are involved with immigration. I have to believe that Donald Trump and people around him understand that if he were to do this as he says, it would have a massive, massive hit on the economy. As we all know, Anna, that undocumented workers are a huge mainstay of not only the construction industry, the housekeeping industry, the custodial industry, the healthcare industry. And so I would guess what he's doing is sending the signal out, and then he'll do something symbolically because the destructiveness to our economy by him doing this, I think is unbelievable. And I think the United States Senate, United States House understands that. My guess is he's going to do something symbolic.
We saw that the first time around with the Mexico's going to pay for the wall, and we all know how that ended up. Danielle, Senator-elect Ruben Gallego, a Democrat who just won in a border state, said this moments ago about Trump's border plan.
The idea that soldiers are going to be carrying out these types of deportations, I think, number one, it's just not something that we in the United States are used to seeing. Number two, you'll actually really diminish the scope and the trust that people have for our military forces when they're being used against U.S. citizens potentially too. Let's not forget that we have a lot of mixed families, and I think it's a very dangerous situation that the president potentially will be putting our military and our military readiness.
So this could affect tens of millions of families. Danielle, what do you see as the impact this could have if Trump does this, as he's vowed, starting on day one?
I mean, I think that it's going to be entirely problematic and incredibly dangerous. What we are seeing with this Trump regime is a desire to weaponize our military against U.S. citizens and as a way to weaponize our military against undocumented people. And the fact is that these people are integral to the health of our economy. And I can't imagine that there are CEOs and shareholders of through various industries that supported Donald Trump that think that this is a good idea, because ultimately it is going to hit them. And so this is a larger conversation about how we see our American military and our economy under this new regime. And right now, not seeming very good.
Matthew, regarding Trump's attorney general pick, NBC is reporting more than half of Senate Republicans are privately saying they don't see a path for Gates to get confirmed. The Washington Post also cites 4 Trump sources who are concerned Hegseth may not have the math either. At the end of the day, do you see Trump getting his way?
I see Trump losing on a few of these, especially Matt Gaetz, and not for the reasons that I think a lot of people are saying. I think the sexual misconduct, I mean, we have to keep in mind that we have a president of the United States who's now commander-in-chief who has credible sexual misconduct allegations and judicial decisions made about him and in the course of this, and he's president of the United States. I think what will likely doom Matt Gaetz is the Republicans in the House and the Republicans in the Senate don't like him. He has a Ted Cruz problem. This problem is that people that are around him don't like him, and he has made a lot of enemies, not just among Democrats, but a lot of enemies by things he's said and done among Republicans. So I think he's going to go down, but because he's going to go down because there's a lot of Republicans that just don't like the guy. Speaker
Johnson, though, does want to bury the House ethics report on Gates, saying it shouldn't come out. Here's what Trump ally Senator Markwayne Mullin said on Meet the Press about the fate of that report.
Should the House Ethics Committee release that report, Senator?
Absolutely, and I believe the Senate should have access to that. Now, should it be released to the public or not? That's I guess that will be part of the negotiations, but that should be definitely part of our decision making. Once again, I go back to it in Article 2, Section 2 in the Constitution. The Senate has to advise and consent these individuals. And in that process, we're going to give Matt Gaetz the same chances we'll give all President Trump's nominees.
Again, that is a staunch Trump ally saying release the report. At least 2 senators who have to make decisions on this confirmation process. So you have Gaetz, you have Hegseth, Danielle. It's kind of reminiscent of the Brett Kavanaugh appointment. Trump could replace these picks with any number of other Republicans with similar goals and ideologies. So why stick to the ones with sexual misconduct allegations hanging over them?
I have no idea, because I don't think that it's a smart move on his part. But you know, to Matthew's point, I think that, look, you have a president of the United States who was adjudicated for violence against women. Right. And so this is not a deal breaker for them. But I think that they want to continue with the appearance of transparency. And that's why there are calls coming for this report to be released. And I think that it would make sense, for it to be released to the entire public so that we know the background and information of the Attorney General of the United States. But the way that the Trump administration looks at this is that Matt Gaetz will be an attorney for Donald Trump and not for the people of the United States of America. And so why do we need to know anything about his background and what he's doing? All we need to know is that he is complicit and compliant with Donald Trump. But I think that other Republicans, to the point that was made, they do not like him. They do not trust him, and they do not want him to be the quote unquote top cop in this country.
Matt, Peter Baker writes in the New York Times, somehow disruption doesn't begin to cover it. Upheaval might be closer, revolution maybe. In less than 2 weeks since being elected again, Donald J. Trump has embarked on a new campaign to shatter the institutions of Washington, as no incoming president has in his lifetime. I guess this shouldn't be a surprise given what Trump campaigned on. Your thoughts on the impact of Trump's leadership team coming into focus?
Well, I think we all have to acknowledge that the public wants disruption of the status quo. I think part of the problem Democrats have had is their defense of the status quo and their defense of business as usual in Washington hasn't been helpful in this. And so, but there is a difference between disruption and a change of the status quo, which is what Donald Trump's voters wanted, and destruction and disarray as an element of what his administration does. And I think that's where Trump and his administration are going towards. They're not going towards disruption, though it will be disruptive. They're going towards destruction of the underpinnings of our democracy. But I think, keep in mind that Democrats have to make the argument, not protect the status quo, but protect what is important to our democracy. And that's where the argument needs to take place.
Quickly, if you will, Matt, Axios has pointed out that Trump's rolling out these picks with record speed, announcing 12 cabinet level spots in 12 days. That's reportedly 5 times faster than President Biden made the same number of picks for his administration. What does that tell you?
It tells me that they've had this all in mind from the very beginning, and that his Project 2025 and all that has been very much a part of this. And so they've been ready. He has people around him ready. That's what I think is scary to a lot of people, that this is not like 2017 where he's going to appoint establishment people and it be sort of dysfunctional. He is very functional in what he wants to do. And that functionality, I think, is what causes people to worry about the dangers this will cause.
Danielle, beyond making a big show at some of these confirmation hearings, do Democrats have a play here?
I'm not quite sure what the play is, but their play needs to be a narrative switch to the American people about who is going to be in charge of our government. And to the point, yes, the American people voted for disruption to the status quo, but they didn't want to see the Constitution of these United States torn up or our most important secrets given over to our former enemies that are now becoming our allies, like Russia. So I think that what Democrats need to do is be out front, having a conversation with the American people, making them aware of what is happening, what is at stake for their lives, and so that the people actually understand where their power still lies under a Trump regime.
Matthew Dowd and Danielle Moody, thank you both so much for the conversation. Up next, multiple current and former DOJ and FBI officials are reaching out to lawyers, anticipating revenge prosecutions by the Trump administration. Also, one cabinet pick we haven't gotten yet. Education Secretary. Will Trump make good on his promise to dismantle the department completely? Plus, searching for a suspect, gunfire strikes a Southwest flight just before takeoff. And later, a string of burglaries at the homes of pro athletes in different states and in different sports. Is there a connection? We're back in 90 seconds.
I started experiencing hair loss on the edges specifically.
My part was extra thin, and then that's when I found hers.
Through hers, you can regrow thicker, fuller hair with a range of doctor-trusted treatments, including serums, chews, and pills, formulated with prescription ingredients and high-grade supplements.
I've started to feel more confident.
I tell all of my friends about hers.
Regrow hair in as few as 3 to 6 months. Get started today at forhers.com.
When you need brutal honesty, when you need answers first thing in the morning, when you need to go deep inside Washington and hear from someone who's been there, you need your Morning Joe, weekdays at 6, only on MSNBC.
I spent half my life in prison.
I felt a responsibility to get to the truth.
I knew that I was never going to go back home.
Free the innocent! Free the innocent!